Yeah.
But putting all the World Cup stuff aside, there is still a competition to play for. And it is all going to be decided on Sunday, which is just fabulous from a fan's point of view. We have our Super Saturday in the Six Nations, which we discussed, but we're also going to be treated to a wonderful show on Sunday between Georgia and Spain for all the marbles. Winner takes all. And yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. Spain are the form team in this competition. They have looked brilliant. They haven't, by the way, they have never won this competition. This competition began at the turn of the century. They have a couple of runner-ups, but every year except one has been won by either Georgia or Romania. In 2004, actually, Portugal of all teams did win it on their way to that qualification in 2007 that they made in that World Cup. But since then it's been like almost all Georgia are going for 5 in a row. They're also going for 11 of the last 12.
It's been a domineering showing from Georgia in the last decade plus in this tournament. But the form side are Spain coming in. They're rocking in with a win streak and coming to Tbilisi with, they beat Portugal in decisive one. They saw what Portugal managed to get out of Georgia away from home, so there's some silverware on the line here, and I'm excited to see how both teams take the field. The field in question, obviously Sunday, March 20th, it's going to be at Avchala Stadium in Tbilisi, and kickoff is 11 o'clock. That's our time, and then 3 o'clock local time kickoff. So an Sunday afternoon game for all the marbles as far as the Rugby Europe Trophy. That has been a perpetual mainstay in the Georgian trophy cabinet for so long, and Spain will have notions of dragging that thing back to Madrid.
They're posting on their Twitter and all, we can become European champions, which they can.
It's very true. Yeah.
It's an awesome prospect, and this team has been on a hell of a journey over the last few years, finishing as runners up in the competition in 2019 and 2020. They had that slip up last year where discipline got the best of them, but then
went 0-3 in their World Cup campaign, but turned it around.
6-3 now, 6 straight wins, and a win here would be yet more history for them. A first in Tbilisi and a first ever Rugby Europe Championship for Santiago Santos's men. That would be a hell of a story.
It is true.
They are good enough. I mean, we're going to look at sort of the winning conditions for each team, and we're going to start with the hosts, who do have to be very concerned in this game. But the Lelos, they're under threat. They know they're under threat from this very good Spanish side.
They haven't fully fired this year. They haven't quite clicked. Haven't managed to have their whole team available at any given things. It's been chopping and changing, but they know that these sides have improved as well. They're under no illusions about that. They were vexed by that draw against Portugal and going like, this is shocking. But that 3-point win over Romania, where it was in the balance, will show them that it's like, it's not just that they played badly here. These teams have improved.
And they certainly haven't decisively answered any questions with that win. What they have done, they showed glimpses in the game in those 3 tries that they got against Romania, all off first phase, all off scrums. They showed where they have improved. Like the opening try that Niniashvili obviously gets all the headlines because it was his cutting line. But little things like Kvesaladze just straightening and giving perfectly, sitting down the defense.
Simple backline principles that are there now that weren't always.
They're not turf and passes. They're running good lines. They have good shape in their offense, and they're finding cheap tries. Portugal weren't able to give Spain problems on the defensive end. Like they obviously
problems in the tie 5 they full stop really.
They obviously were able to score some tries, Portugal, but by and large it was a struggle for them because they weren't able to play with the dynamism and power necessary to break up what was a very powerful Spanish defence.
True.
Georgia will be looking to right that wrong. They will be looking to move the ball with tempo. Personally, we don't have the squads. I would love to see Lobsanidze arrested and Aprasidze come in, because I think it gives them the better tempo. They need to play with that kind of rhythm where they're going over the game line,
to the ball, getting guys like that
smashing back those contacts and then going out wide, and then as good a defender as guys like Jimeno are, with Tato in there, with Niniashvili in there in pivot positions, the 2 quality centres who can run short lines or give passes out wide.
Sharkadze on the short ball, little switch to him can be very dangerous. Try and get Jimeno just overloaded and making more tackles than running sharp lines. You want him more preoccupied with his hands full on the defensive end. Try and, if you can, target Rue, target Ordask, and make them feel your physicality on the defense as well, and just try and bludgeon these Spaniards into submission out into BC.
On the offensive end, that's what they need to do. It needs to be rhythmic, it needs to be quick, and it needs to be powerful. Like that was the big difference between really what Portugal failed to do against them. They were just stopped behind the gain line. If Georgia can get over the gain line, their offense is good enough that they'll be able to find tries and perhaps go toe to toe, if not better than the Spanish.
The strike running of all of their forwards and backs and their physicality should be good enough with that. If you're saying Aprasidza, but whoever's at halfback manages to move them sharply, and then Tato at 10 kicking and passing very well, and then the key fulcrum as well to the access to the wide channels goes through Niniash really, and get him involved often and always. Then you'll start causing star quality
in Niniash really.
Get the good guys
really
on the ball.
He's been fabulous in this tournament, and to bail them out with cheap tries will be big, because they know they have a good defence. They'll look to contain Spain. They'll look to win those contacts to make it difficult for them.
In the break, more of a mess in the breakdown than Portugal were able to provide as well. Like I think Jalagonia's out this week, but whoever's in the back row, we know.
Becca Gurgadze back in the squad. Otar Giorgadze back in the squad. You might get that classic back row of Giorgadze, Saganadze, and Becca Gurgadze. Like that's a great back row if they can all be firing. Saganadze was good last week. He was involved. He can be better. Like he's coming back into
run of games.
So they'll look to him to be really explosive, powerful counter-rucking, stopping the Spanish. But they'll know that like Spain have a very good offense. They're a very difficult team to stop. They are going to score some tries, and Georgia will know that as much as they want to solve the problems that they've had, they're going to want to stick with scoring points. Scoring 4 tries last week was great. They've got to keep that kind of
make it a precedent, make it and continue rolling on the offensive end and try and keep those scores need to be higher. Like
that's what this competition is
because
right now.
Your MO has been to win this game, like bludgeoning them into submission and only win it 16-6, but it's dominant 16-6. I don't think that's going to cut it here.
Those days are
gone. I think that's not the way this tournament's played out. And then
16
similarly,
points is a losing score.
It is a losing score. You're going to need to rack up your 4 tries, but similarly on the defensive end, you're going to be willing to accept that maybe these guys will score against you because they're good enough, but also big job for guys in the centre, your Sharakadze to try and shut down that Jimeno line, but also the access to the wide channels that the Spaniards can find.
That battle between Jimeno and Sharakadze on both sides of the ball is going to be fascinating. 2 captains, 2 class players.
True.
I think Jimeno might be taking the side, obviously with Kersey out for them. It's just going to be box office
really
stuff.
Good challenge. I'd say both guys will get some stuff off as well, because I think Sharakadze runs into Jimeno. I think he goes forward, and I think the contact's probably won that way, but it doesn't mean he's not reaching at a shadow if Jimeno cuts a brilliant line. And it's like
exactly. And once Spain cut that line, they do tend to open you up, and so the Georgian defence will have to respect that slow tackles, catching the ball, but then
smoother tackles, the kind of really physical kind of wrestling tackles that Georgia have been it has been a mainstay in this comp, is that the ability for when a nice line is cut, you grab him, you wrap him, you slowly lift and then put him down, and it's like it means that if the whole tackle takes 5 seconds and then you're in the ruck and then that takes an extra 3 or 4 seconds, then suddenly Ruiz frustrated, Ordaz has nothing, and then he's kicking, and that's what you want to force from Spain, is those kinds of sets where they're running into traffic and then they're actually slowing up and they're having to kick.
And then more concerning, because the Spanish have such a good kicking game that they're gonna get opportunities in the Georgian half, and they're gonna get lineouts in the Georgian half. The sneaky thing that's happened to Georgia is that their tight 5 has gone off a cliff in terms of its quality. Like Narishvili's still a gnarly scrummager and can get things off as he did against Portugal, but it's on those guys to respond and show who they can be, because on form they are not as good a tight 5 as Spain have, or as Romania have arguably. They're not getting consistent penalties at the scrum, and they are consistently getting beaten now on both sides of the ball in the line-out drive. Spain scored 2 line-out mauls against the Portuguese. It is an area of strength for them.
The last couple of years.
They have wonderfully dynamic prop forwards. They really do. And off the bench, Foutu coming on is just a monster. And so Georgia are as well matched in that area as they have ever been in this competition, I think, and perhaps outmatched in that area. They have quality elsewhere, but their tight 5, far from being a strength for them, actually starts to look like a weakness when you look at this team.
It's bizarre that way.
They have to show up. If they are going to be this marauding, scrummaging team that they like to be, this is a big challenge for them.
Yeah, it is. They've got to ride the crowd. They'll get the crowd involved in something to cheer on. Like they were away in Bucharest last week, and that was where some of it's tougher to be that physical. Like if they can get a scrum penalty early doors, then those guys start to rise, and maybe some of those Spaniards start to shrink.
Technical things like the defensive maul, though, you'd wonder what the answer is. They don't have an answer right now.
They've always struggled to produce guys who look like proper locks. Some of their locks look like just converted back rows, and what you really want want in that maul defence is someone with the telescopic limb kind of ability to get over the top and get at the ball carrier, and we haven't seen much of that. No, to be honest, not just from Georgia, just in all of these teams.
But actually, to be fair, Spain, like in Mora and better at stuff, have done it in recent weeks. Romania have done it in recent weeks.
Actually, the Spain-Romania game itself was one of the best examples of tier 2 maul defence from both sides that, to be honest, you'd never see, because normally when a maul gets going from 10 metres out, it's just either it's a penalty try or it's a try, because these teams tend not to stop it. But that is true. That is a factor that Georgia will look. Well, they'll have to look at, because could be decisive. Fronting up, easier to front up at home, though. I will say that you can one or two moments can get that crowd involved, and that can be a lift for ye and a shrink for the opposition, and they got to make those things happen. Like when you get Niniashvili's hands on the ball and he makes something happen, suddenly the noise ripples up, and then suddenly you feel a bit taller in that, even those type 5 forwards. So it's about kind of the push and pull and riding that to a good effect, which Georgia do know well. They know how to make pressure tell into Tbilisi, and know how to turn it into a furnace that's very, very tough to conquer. And even Portugal, with a great performance, only managed to squeeze a draw out of it. So they're going to be confident of that.
But a draw would be enough for Spain.
It would.
And we are going to look at it now from the point of view of the away side. And I suppose first and foremost, the thing that would give you pause, as great as the scenes were post-match, was that team's adrenaline of sculling pints up in front of their fans.
That's another factor.
Those boys went out, they had a night on
You don't want to say it from a Georgian point of view, but you do also want to say, like, these guys have already qualified, let's make them look silly in this one. And it could be the case from a Spanish point of view that it's a week after the night before.
Exactly. It's one of those things where it could go either way. I mean, they obviously had a night on Sunday
and
evening.
Rightly so.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
you've got to celebrate the good times.
As much as being Rugby Europe champions would be amazing for Spain, it is very much the
secondary. It would be a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. They have done their main job, and so it can go one of two ways, I suppose. You can suffer from the lose,
roll in and be actually really good because the pressure's off, or be hungover.
Adrenaline dump, just arriving flat, and if they're flat, like, because the energy that they brought last week was suffocating the Portuguese. It was like they were off on both sides of the ball. They were just sprinting.
It'll take a similar effort to one-stick Georgia into Tbilisi, which is an effort that Portugal did bring on week 1 and weren't able to replicate the week after in Romania, even, which was a tough ask as well.
We've seen quite a bit of that this year, aside slumping following a big performance,
and so there is that fear like that up. There's no gap week at all, and they did just qualify. So that's the first, second, and third protocol is like, are we going to arrive to Tbilisi to the pitch? Because like if we don't, then it doesn't matter what we talk about the kicking game or whatever.
Exactly. Like if we're getting blown away in the contact area, it's all superfluous.
Exactly. So that is first, second, and third protocol is just kind of dust yourselves off from last week and arrive to the pitch of battle.
Try and bring that same energy. They are missing Quercy this week, but they still have that wonderful tight 5 that they played last week. Can they be explosive off the line, make big tackles, and get the Georgians thinking? Because if they can turn this game into a kind of a kicking fest where Georgia can't get anything off in the midfield and they're winning those contacts on the inside, Jimenez shutting down the outside, and Georgia aren't getting the physical contacts on the inside that they want, then all of a sudden, if you're forcing them to kick, they will back themselves in that exchange.
It's true.
That's where they've gone to work. Like Ordas sitting in the backfield pinging 50-22s. Tato's been great. I mean, that is a good kicking battle, but Ordas has been the best 10 in this competition this year.
He has. He's been pretty flawless, and Rue's been fabulous as well, as much as the two halfbacks that are rotating for Georgia are excellent as well. Rue's been fabulous at setting a tempo, and so you want to see that. You want to see those halfbacks bringing those forwards onto the ball, asking good questions with good passes of all the defensive kind of linchpins, your Sharkazes. You want to try and overload these guys and occupy defenders in the back row for Georgia, get their hands full, get them on the deck, and then go quickly if they can. Setting a different tempo to what Georgia would like when they have the ball in hand is a key thing. And it depends, again, goes back to that first point, is like, are they going to play with that tempo? But if they do, then they definitely have the tools out wide to cause some problems to these guys.
Score some tries. There's nothing like them when they cut through the line. Their support play and offloading is excellent. I mean, they scored tries with 5, 6, 7 offloads. They do keep the ball alive very well. They pick good lines off each other. They're very good at turning line breaks into tries themselves. And both of these offenses will fancy it. I am interested though to see this tight five battle. I mean, we touched on it with
Spanish
Georgia,
props
but
are
like,
awesome though, like, aren't they?
It's always the barometer that you judge yourselves on in this game. But like John Zavala picking that ball through the middle of the Portuguese, Fernando Lopez as well has been class. Few off the bench has been a rampaging monster all tournament. You look at Moura and Guillaume in the locks shutting down the Romanian maul like it's not even there. Like if they can put that kind of performance together against a Georgian tight five that has been struggling to play accurately, like winning that matchup, that's something that the Georgians will get the Georgians' head spinning, because if they decisively get on top of them in the maul and perhaps even in the scrum with their explosive, brilliant tight forwards, then that is just a new picture for the Georgians in Tbilisi. And I don't think it's far-fetched. I really don't. I think they're excellent players.
I definitely don't. As much as we do always highlight, like if you're at a tight head in this tournament, away in Tbilisi is your toughest task, that usually is the case, and it probably will be again here. But it's not one that they shouldn't be shy about. They can go there with some pedigree and with some evidence-based kind of confidence that's just like, we can have a cut at these guys. Let's go for it. Let's go and try and win a tournament. Take some silverware by claim and a big scalp in Tbilisi. It's not that far-fetched. It does start with that tight five battle though. If that goes in reverse for Spain, I don't see Rue and Ordaz and Jimeno and the guys out wide being able to just arrest that on their own if they're getting bullied.
And indeed, and the other point of concern that they have to adjust defensively is that the Georgians play with a lot of depth and width these days, and they
try and get wide runners out
roaming
there,
back row forwards on the wings, and so
someone needs to be tasked to stop them. You got to put them down. You got to stop the ball out there. It's easier said than done, and it'll involve some really good clutch 1v1 tackles in a bit of space.
What does it look like when Minguian or Jordi Jorba are 1v1 against Saganadze? Are they just going to be turfed? And then
are they at least going to put him down or hold him or scrag him, or are they just going to be a speed bump? Because if they're just a speed bump, that'll hurt. It will. That's when, like, if the Georgians do get on top of them and they do get plenty of red zone entrances, that's when you might start to see their bad habits again, and especially if they are a little tired and stuff. That's where like silly tired plays. And to be honest, like as much as their maul defense has been good as well, I have seen them give away a card for a maul that was reversed. And it's like
once they get around the corner, it's just yanked down blatantly, or run around the side and tackle the guy on the ball, or just something that the ref can't help but card you for.
Indeed, so try not to do that, to be honest. It's again, all of this is easier said than done, and all of it is the caveat of like, which Spain will we see? Will we see them arriving with that hunger, that passion to try and go and claim silverware,
to make a game for the ages?
For the ages out in Tbilisi, which is fair enough, and if they can do that, I'm all excited for it. But what's also fair enough and is an acceptable alternative route is that they arrive and they look a little bit flat, of a shadow of themselves from last week, and you'd be like, where's the Spain that was last week? And it's like, to be honest, they celebrated because they're in the World Cup.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure which one we're expecting to see, but to be honest, it is in Spain's camp as to whether we see a really, really good contest or one of those just Georgian wins that we are normally more accustomed to. I think that hinges on the performance of Spain.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you. I think we're in for a game again with tries. I think both sides to clear 20 points. I think that's a safe bet. Honestly,
I would hope so. Tournament, we're getting into springtime now, even in Tbilisi as well, all around. So I'm thinking conditions are good. These teams are good. Let's go.
It's happening consistently. These offenses are great, and the defenses still have some catching up to do.
True.
I think for sure we're in for a high scoring game.
One for the neutrals. You want to be enjoying watching.
I do rate Georgia, but this Spanish side is as legit a threat to their crown as kings of this competition as there's been. I think
since 2015 Romania, I guess.
But even since for as long as this Georgian team has been a thing really pushing at the door of the Six Nations, I think this is as big a challenge to their crown as they've had. Spain, obviously runners up a couple of years. Can they get their first win, and what would that do to shake the order of play in Rugby Europe? I don't know. But I think I'm predicting a Georgian win. I think with that adrenaline dump, I think the Georgians are due a big performance and a big response. I'm not on board with the Georgian fans who think that Saishvili is a terrible coach and they need to start fixing things and that they're in a disastrous state. I think their offense has come on leaps and bounds, and that is going to stand to them in this game. That's what
they were talking about in the off-season in the last couple of years, knowing that with all the other teams talking about World Cup qualification, Georgia weren't. They were talking about when we get to the next World Cup, we actually want to be able to fire some shots, which involves improving the offense, because they were embarrassed at the last World Cup in that very similar group that they're going to be in by just their lack of ability.
They're playing Fiji and they concede 2 quick tries and they have nothing by way of riposte, which this Georgian team would have a riposte, which is infinitely better. But yeah, they are going to have to pick up, I think, a set piece coach of some kind, a set piece expert to come in between now and the World Cup, because it's a mess at the moment.
It is, and I think with their traditional strength, I'm kind of seeing something similar. I think as much as I'd like to see all guns blazing Spain and all guns blazing Georgia, and I think that's a cracking game, I think we might see a Spain that are a little bit shy of what we saw last week and for the last few weeks as well, and we might see Tbilisi being just one bridge too far as things to conquer. Maybe I'm wrong, because momentum's huge and they are riding a momentum wave in, but I think I'm back in Georgia at home to get the win and secure the Rugby Europe Championship once again this time, and that's what I see happening anyway.
Absolutely.
Who you got?
Let us know down below. Absolutely. Who you got in this one? Who's going to take the Rugby Europe crown? How have you found this wonderful, wonderful tournament? I hope that you've taken our advice and watched these games. And a word to the wise, watch them live, because they will spoil the heck out of them on their streaming site if you don't.
And a word to any Rugby Europe people involved in that website: stop doing that. If you're watching, stop doing that. You have to actively change the stream to include the scoreline in it. Just don't. Yeah. Just say Spain or Georgia v Spain stream.
Once you click on Rugby Europe TV on your website, there should be no spoilers. No room for spoilers in there. It's a pretty basic thing. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Let us know what you think this is going in the comments down below. But for now, we're going to move on.
Thank you very much for tuning into the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you're new here, please do like and subscribe and ring the bell as well, so you'll be notified when we upload. But mainly, drop a comment down below as well. We love hearing your thoughts on the rugby. Cheers.